I've always found a strange kind of peace in the rhythm of my work. The clatter of dishes, the rush of water, the methodical scrubbing of plates and glasses. It's a routine that grounds me. My tiny San Francisco apartment, with its peeling wallpaper and creaky floors, feels worlds away from the bustling kitchen where I spend most of my days as the chief dishwasher. It's not a glamorous job, not by any stretch, but there's a quiet pride in it. Every plate I clean, every glass I polish, is part of someone's moment. A birthday celebration, a first date, a family reunion. I may not be the one sitting at the table, but I'm there in my own way, helping to make those moments happen. Still, there are nights when I lie awake, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering how I ended up here. I had dreams once, big ones. I wanted to be someone, to make something of myself. Life, though, has a way of steering you off course. I tell myself it's temporary, that this is just a stepping stone, but the years keep passing, and the stepping stones start to feel like a path I'm stuck on. Camila was the one bright spot in all of it. She was vibrant, full of life, and somehow, against all odds, she chose me. We met at a coffee shop where she worked as a barista. I'd go in on my days off, nursing a cup of black coffee and scribbling in a notebook, pretending I was working on something important. She'd tease me about it, calling me her mysterious writer, even though I never wrote much of anything. We fell into a rhythm, and before I knew it, she was moving into my cramped apartment, bringing with her a warmth that made the place feel like a home. But lately, things had been different. She'd been distant, her smiles a little forced, her laughter a little too quick. I told myself it was stress, her sisters when it was coming up, and she'd been running around trying to help with the planning. I didn't want to push her, so I kept quiet, hoping it would pass. That evening, I was just finishing up at work, wiping down the last of counters, when I felt a shift in the air. Camila walked in, her face pale, her eyes avoiding mine. My stomach dropped. Something was wrong. "Lucas," she said, her voice trembling. "I need to talk to you." I nodded, setting down the rag I'd been holding. "What's going on?" She took a deep breath, her hands twisting together. I don't think you should come to my sister's wedding." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I stared at her, trying to make sense of what she was saying. "What do you mean? I thought we were going together." She shook her head, her eyes filling with tears. "I can't do it, Lucas. I can't bring you there. My family, they wouldn't understand. They wouldn't understand us." I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. "What are you talking about? What wouldn't they understand?" She looked away, her voice barely above a whisper. "Your job. They judge you. They judge me. I can't handle that." The room seemed to spin. I'd always known my job wasn't something to brag about, but I'd never thought it would be a reason for shame. Not like this. "Camila," I said, my voice cracking. "This is who I am. This is what I do. If that's not enough for you." "It's not about you being enough," she snapped, her voice rising. "It's about what they'll think. I can't have them looking at me like I'm some kind of failure for being with you." Her words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. I felt like I'd been stripped bare, all my insecurities laid out for her to see. "So that's it?" I asked, my voice hollow. "You're embarrassed by me?" She didn't answer, but the look in her eyes said everything. I felt something inside me break. That night, I packed my things. It didn't take long. I didn't have much to begin with. Camila watched from the doorway, her arms crossed, her face unreadable. I wanted to say something, to make her understand how much she was hurting me. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I slung my duffel bag over my shoulder and walked out the door, each step heavier than the last. I ended up in a cheap motel on the outskirts of the city. The room was dimly lit, the walls stained with years of neglect. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, trying to make sense of what had just happened. How had it come to this? How had I let myself become someone she was ashamed of? Days turned into weeks, and I drifted through them in a haze. I went to work. I came back to the motel, and I tried not to think about Camila. But she was everywhere, in the songs on the radio, in the smell of coffee, in the quiet moments when my mind wandered. I missed her, even as I hated her for what she'd done. Then, one evening, there was a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I hesitated before opening it. And there she was, Camila, standing in the dim light of the hallway, her face pale and drawn. "Lucas," she said, her voice trembling. "I need your help." I stared at her, my heart pounding. "What are you talking about?" She took a deep breath, her eyes filling with tears. "My family, they think you're dead." The words hit me like a tidal wave. "What?" She looked away, her hands twisting together. "I told them you died. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't tell them the truth about your job, about us. I thought it would be easier this way." I felt a surge of anger, hot and sharp. "You told them I was dead? Are you serious?" "I didn't know what else to do," she cried, her voice breaking. "I was scared, Lucas. I was scared of what they'd think, of how they'd look at me. I thought if I told them you were gone, they'd stop asking questions." I shook my head, trying to make sense of it all. "So, you just erased me? Like I never existed?" "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said, her voice small. I didn't know how to handle it. I wanted to be angry, to scream at her for what she'd done. But as I looked at her, at the tears streaming down her face, I felt something else. Pity. She was so caught up in what other people thought, in the image she wanted to project, that she'd lost sight of what really mattered. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice tired. She swallowed hard. "I need you to come with me. To my sister's wedding. I need you to pretend you're alive." I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You want me to pretend to be alive? After you told them I was dead?" "I know it's crazy," she said, her voice pleading. "But I don't know what else to do. If they find out I lied, I can't handle that, Lucas. I can't." I looked at her, at the woman I'd once loved, and felt a strange mix of emotions, anger, hurt, but also a lingering sense of responsibility. Despite everything, I couldn't just turn my back on her. "Fine," I said, my voice heavy with resignation. "I'll do it. But this is it, Camila. After this, we're done." She nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude and guilt. "Thank you, Lucas. I don't deserve this." "No," I said quietly. "You don't." As I closed the door behind her, I felt a strange sense of clarity. This wasn't just about helping her. It was about closing a chapter, about saying goodbye to the life we'd built together. And maybe, just maybe, it was about finding a way to move forward, to start over. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had a choice. And that was something.